Jamaica in the early 1800s was a major British colony home to over 300,000 slaves. The colony was a very important source of sugar for Great Britain, and its production was at its peak during this time period. Around this time period, Samuel Sharpe was born a slave in St. James, Jamaica, son of Judah Bligham, with an older sister named Eva and a younger brother named Joe. Sharpe was allowed to be educated as a child and learned to read and write in his formative years, which was a rarity for most slaves in this time. The knowledge to read and write helped him as he grew older in a vast multitude of ways. As Sharpe grew older, he became a Baptist preacher in his hometown parish of St. James, believing that God was the way to salvation for all slaves. He preached Christianity to other slaves on Jamaica and encouraged them to follow God. With his ability to read, he kept up with news from Great Britain and learned of the British Parliament's discussion and debates surrounding the issue of abolishing slavery, although he believed that a decision had already been made in the slaves' favor. He began to rally other slaves on the island who were familiar with him from his preachings. They trusted him because of his rare abilities to both read and write, and because he never gave them a reason not to. A peaceful organized strike began on December 27, 1831, with over 60,000 slaves asking plantation owners for simple wages and benefits, not expecting them to say no. Once they refused, the conflict was first escalated when crops began to catch fire at Kensington Estate, and once that happened, Sharpe knew that something had gone wrong. Heavily armed European troops were called in to put down the rebellion. The conflict was short, lasting only 10 days, but in that time span, 200 slaves were killed, along with 14 Europeans. Following the war, the Jamaican government began executing leaders of the rebellion, including Samuel Sharpe. Nearly 400 slaves were killed this way after the conflict had already ended, doubling the amount that had been killed during the strike. Although Samuel Sharpe was killed, his impact and the impact of the Baptist War echoed through the world. In 1833, the British Parliament passed the Slavery Abolition Act, in part due to Samuel Sharpe and the rebellion he led, and 5 years later, abolished slavery in all parts of the British Empire. In Jamaica, Samuel Sharpe's legacy is still seen today. In 1975, Samuel Sharpe was posthumously named a National Hero of Jamaica, and in the same year, the Sam Sharpe Teachers College was founded in his honor. Currently, his face adorns the Jamaican $50 bill, and a statue of him stands in Sam Sharpe Square.